An 800-year-old Norwegian legend, long thought to be triumphalist propaganda, has recently been confirmed by an astonishing archaeological discovery. A dig in Sverresborg has made a find which backs up an account in the saga of King Sverre. The post-Viking era sagas are often regarded as exaggerated self-aggrandizement, but the recent discovery confirms the complete accuracy of a particular story. The background behind the Sverre saga starts with the journey of a young priest from his home in the Faroe Islands to Norway in order to claim the monarchy. According to the historical legend, Sverre had been hidden in a cave from childhood. Over the years, he had experienced several dreams, which he interpreted as a prophetic sign that he was destined for greatness. Finally, at the age of 24, his mother had revealed to him that his real father had been a king. King Sigurd II Haraldsson had been a co-ruler of Norway, but slain in the power struggle with his brothers. At that time, there was no rule that only legitimate heirs could ascend to the throne, so Sverre, deciding that the monastic life was not for him, travelled to Norway to pursue his destiny. At the time, a claimant to the throne was required to undergo an ordeal by fire to prove their honesty. However, Sverre repeatedly refused to do this. Ordeal by fire was a barbaric medieval test of truthfulness, which involved the person in doubt to walk several paces over red-hot ploughshares or hold a red-hot iron. Sverre's choice not to undergo the ordeal saw his claim to royal heritage dismissed. However, it seems like political pragmatism and the need for new leadership enabled him to eventually gain the support of Swedish royalty. They appointed him commander of a hitherto unsuccessful army called the Birkebeiners. Their name derived from the extreme poverty of the men, which led some of them to wind the bark of the birch tree around their legs instead of wearing shoes. According to the saga, Sverre's leadership transformed the motley crew into a force of skilled and tough soldiers. After protracted battles over 6 years, Sverre was finally able to claim his position as the sole and uncontested king of Norway. He built the country's first medieval castle on a steep cliff plateau at Sverresborg, naming it Zion after King David's citadel in Jerusalem. Sverre was to rule Norway for 18 years, anointing his son as successor as he drew his last breath. His descendants continued to reign for well over the next 100 years. Of course, despite Sverre's decisive victory, the civil wars continued throughout Scandinavia. His chronicles tell of a fight between the Birkebeiners and a group called the Baglers, who had become the two main warring parties at Sverresborg in 1197. The powerful Roman Catholic Church supported the Baglers because King Sverre and his supporters wanted to reduce the privileges of the bishops and to establish a church wherein the king was the head. The bishops wanted to retain an independent church where they were subjects only to the Pope. The battle between the Birkebeiner and Bagler forces was particularly fierce around Sverre's impressive fortress, which finally fell to the Baglers. Sverre's saga described what happened there 800 years ago. He recorded that the Baglers stole all the possessions inside the castle and proceeded to burn every house to the ground. They retrieved the body of a man who had fallen in battle and placed it in the well, and then filled the well with stones right to the top. This action would have been undertaken to poison the natural groundwater in the area, thereby preventing future settlements at this location. The Baglers then forced the local townsmen to break down and dismantle all the castle's fortified walls, filling the well with all the latrine waste they had found and stones from the demolished walls. They then split apart and burned all of the king's longships before finally leaving with the riches they had plundered. Sverre's castle was to be destroyed and rebuilt twice during the tumultuous years of his reign. And now to the fascinating discovery and what it means. Because the Sverre saga was partly written during Sverre's lifetime and under his direct sponsorship, scholars long suspected bias in its accounts. specifically that it is the propaganda of a self-styled winner. However, there was a 1938 report of the sighting of a skeleton at the bottom of the legendary well, which was not acted on because of the onset of World War II. 75 years later, archaeologists again explored the plateau in the believed location of King Sverre's Sverresborg settlement. They excavated a well filled with stones and again discovered the preserved remains of a body at the bottom, exactly as described in the King's saga. The skeleton was dated back to the 1100s and found to belong to a man aged 35 to 40 years. It was a unique archaeological discovery because it confirms the same dramatic story from the specific event recounted in King Sverre's saga that occurred at Sverresborg in 1197. Alongside the skeleton, there were also found objects like the man's shoes and 2 silver coins bearing the king's engraved portrait and name. The findings are thought to indicate that other horrific events in the tales are also perfectly true. Thus, the grisly 800-year-old story was confirmed as accurate. The battle victors placed a dead body in a well to poison it, to thwart future settlements.